and today I'm gonna be talking about the news of the week. A lot of stuff has happened this week, and I haven't talked about a couple of it. First thing I'm gonna talk about is the big Eric Carlson news. The big Eric Carlson news is huge and risky for the San Jose Sharks, but it's an 8-year deal. It's an 8-year deal worth about $11.6 million a year, and again, because of his health, it's gonna be a bit risky for the San Jose Sharks, but I think it's a decent move. Is he worth $11 million? Like when he's fully healthy, like if he is fully healthy next year, is he worth it? And my answer is absolutely he's worth it. But if he gets injured, then it's not gonna be as good as a deal for sure with his health. And I know a lot of fans that were like, well, we're glad we didn't get him to that money. I guess everybody will be happy because because every summer it's the Habs, Canucks, and Leafs are just gonna get every free agent, and and when they're officially not part of their team, we're glad we didn't get them. That's usually how it works. I know, yeah. That the Habs are apparently still getting everybody. I mean, it's still a chance for the Habs to get some of these free agents, but there's no way. Just and I don't think that Ottawa rumor. I can't see it because him going to Ottawa is just ridiculous. But that aside, that aside, Karlsson, this deal, he's worth every penny. He's worth honestly every penny to this deal. But there's risk in this. But I still think it's a really good deal for the Sharks. For the Sharks, like they're still going all in, and they at least have one more year with this exact core to compete for a Stanley Cup that that is very like it's they have a chance to get a cup, and I want guys like Joe Thornton or Carlson and these guys and veterans like Pavelski, Couture, and Vlasic, you know all these players part of this core that have been with the Sharks for a very long time, and they've only been to the finals once. The time they went to the finals was, of course, without Erik Karlsson, which just shows how much potential this team really has. If they can play like the best team in the league, they can literally win a cup almost every year. It's kind of like Tampa. They're obviously much older of a core than Tampa, so it's probably more concerning than the Tampa Bay Lightning that really have such a young core. The San Jose Sharks have a very aging core, which is what they have to do. But that is, yes, Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson, 8 years. A few days ago, earlier this week, like 2-3 days ago, Erik Karlsson was signed to an 8-year extension, which yes is about 11.6 million a year. The only thing, really is, yeah, can they sign Pavelski? And also, they made a minor trade as well. The San Jose Sharks They acquired a second, I believe, and a third for they got Justin Braun. So this is also I almost forgot to mention this in this video because 2019 second and third for Justin Braun. Philadelphia is making strange moves this week. This week has been really weird for the Philadelphia Flyers. They're trying to upgrade their defense, but it just looks really weird. Quite honestly, it looks weird. And that's just a minor trade. I'm not really gonna put pictures of any of those players. I'm just gonna mention it. And the next trade that did happen for the Flyers a few days ago was Matt Niskanen. He got traded to Philly for Radko Gudas. Now, just like most people are saying, I think Washington probably wins this deal. And I think Gudas makes much less money. He does make less money. And if we're being honest, Gudas was the better player last season, easily. Matt Niskanen, I think he's a good defenseman. And I understand why the Flyers are going after defensemen because that blue line, I thought last year, I was one of the few people that said Philadelphia needs to upgrade that defense if they really want to make the playoffs again, because they lost to Pittsburgh a few years ago. Then again, I said they would miss the playoffs in 2019, but no one believed me. I said the defensive core really needs to upgrade. I like Gudas. He goes over the line too much, but his overall game, he's a very good defenseman. They have a lot of decent pieces, and for whatever reason, they struggle. That blue line's not good enough. Do I really think it's upgraded? Braun, I guess is an upgrade, but like, they traded a second for him. Is it really? I don't think it's necessary to trade a second round pick for him. I really don't know if it's really worth trading a second round pick for Justin Braun. In my opinion, I just don't know why they did that. And also, I don't know. I really don't know what the Flyers are doing here. I get it, and apparently they were gonna go after Bobrovsky, but after Carter Hart became really good at just 20 years old, it looks like they are not gonna go after goalie because they have Talbot, I believe, in that trade. So they got Cam Talbot as their backup. I think they still got Brian Elliott. I still think they got Brian Elliott. So they got like two goalies potentially competing for a backup spot. Or Talbot, maybe he'll be gone. Maybe one of those guys will be gone. Two goalies that haven't really been great the last year. Talbot being in Edmonton, it's not all his fault, but 2017 he was great and their MVP. The Flyers look like they have solved the goaltending with Hart. Hopefully. I still think Chuck Fletcher has like the staff and ownership that fired Ron Hextall. I don't think Ron Hextall was doing a great job. Ron Hextall was being very patient. He was doing the right thing. But the ownership and presidents said, we don't want to wait. We don't want to do this now. And I don't think that was a good thing, right? When I heard that, I'm like, this is not good for the Flyers. If they're impatient, they're gonna make mistakes, and they're kind of making mistakes right now in this offseason. They're really making really bad decisions. I like Niskanen. He's always been a decent, good solid defenseman on any second or third. He can like top four, good top four guy. He'll fit. I think he'll do good in Philly, but based on last season, I'd probably rather have Gudis, and he has a much better. I think he has a better contract. And this, I think Washington's still going for the cup, and they saw Gudis last year, and they said this guy can actually upgrade a blue line, and I give them credit for doing that. I don't think Niskaten's bad. He makes a ton of money, though. I mean, he makes a lot of money, like over $5 million, and that's a lot of money for a guy that's not a great player, but he's a solid defenseman. Now, Philly could use a solid defenseman. Philly definitely. I think they're like getting Braun. I think their defense is upgraded over the defense literally a week ago that they had. Now if the rumors are true that they will trade Shane Gostisbehere, their defense is not looking great. Because I get Gostisbehere can be risky. He can be a guy that makes mistakes. Maybe he's just a good offensive defenseman. He is not a very old defenseman and can still improve offensively and defensively. And I like Gostisbehere. He's nothing like Provorov, which is an absolute stud on the blue line, maybe a Norris winner one day. One of the more underrated defensemen for the last few years. I think he's got more recognition after that 2018 series against Pittsburgh. I think people finally found out how good of a defenseman he is. Like me, because I didn't really know too much until that series, and I'm like, wow, this defenseman's unbelievable. They have to build around Provorov and Gostisbehere. And if Gostisbehere is traded, who are they getting back? A better defenseman? There's not too many Gostisbeheres out there with his talent offensively. And if they're trading him, what are you going to do? Trade for another great forward? I mean, they could use a couple of depth pieces. I mean, there's rumors that, Andrew Shaw and Paul Byron or something are in this trade. I don't know how Philadelphia wins that either. The Habs, it's like, thank you. We need a really good puck-moving defenseman. Yeah, if the Habs got this, I mean, maybe they're in the playoffs. I mean, if he had Weber and then he had Gostisbehere, just imagine that defense. And the Habs really need a guy like Gostisbehere. I understand why the Habs would do it, but if you're not giving up at least a second with Shaw Byron, I don't know how you get him. But again, Chuck Fletcher has just awful this year at making these deals. His contracts are awful. And I don't get it. Quite honestly, I don't get what Chuck Fletcher's doing. He's an interesting GM. Nothing like his dad, Cliff Fletcher. He was definitely a much better GM. He was successful. He made some bad trades for sure and made some bad moves. But overall, he had a good career. Chuck Fletcher, I mean, if you follow the urinating tree, you know all about this Chuck Fletcher stuff with the Wild 2013 or whatever. What summer was it? I think it was 2013 or 2012. One of those, I think it was 2013, one of those years. It was a free agency where they overpaid Zach Parise to ridiculous money, and I think it was Ryan Suter. And they're two good players. Ryan Suter's definitely a great defenseman in his career, but he got way too much money. Like, the money he got, I mean, Parise, how is that contract even, that contract's awful. He's just awful with contracts. And I mean, I just don't get it. Half of the bad contracts now, like all the Lou Lamoriello contracts this offseason so far, that have not been great, except for the Eberle trade, which is a half-decent contract, they're pretty bad. Like, Brock Nelson's like $6 million, like, first 50-point year. And so far, the final Chuck Fletcher move that's happened recently is the Kevin Hayes deal. that that has that is just, it's insane. It's basically insane. I don't know how it even happens, but basically he's basically Kevin Hayes. Like Kevin Hayes gets what? He gets like, I think it's seven. It's 7 plus. I'm gonna look here. I forget the exact deal, but let's see. It's basically like 7 point. Yep, 7.1. So it's 7.1 million. So he gets a seven. He gets a 7.1 million dollar cap hit to Kevin Hayes. Because Kevin Hayes never had a 50-point season in his career in the history, and now he's put up one 50-point season, and there you go. You have one of the most overpaid. I'm guessing you have the most overpaid player, one of the most in the league, and that's not good. So aside that news, it's not. I just don't. I don't see how it's a good contract. It's not a good contract. It's pretty awful. So again, Chuck Fletcher, as I've said before, is not doing the greatest job that he could for these contracts that obviously are not good enough. They are not good enough. Have to be under. And if the Jets, if Kevin Hayes actually asked for this money, to the Jets, now the Jets obviously traded him for a fifth. You're most likely not getting an NHL player out of that. But could you? If Hayes just gets 45 points next year, 45 points, I think that I can't see him being, I don't know how the Jets really get fleeced at all. In fact, if the Jets were asked about 7 million plus to sign with the Jets, I think for sure they're better off. I don't see how that it's a bad move. If they don't want 7 million, they're already in cap hell, and they don't have Hayes. So when you look at it this way, the Jets really didn't make a horrible move. Could they have got more? Maybe a fourth or third. But quite honestly, it doesn't look like an actual awful trade like it did, like literally a few weeks ago when it was made. I think Kevin Hayes he's a decent player, but not as it. I don't even know if I don't even think he's six. I don't even think he's a $6 million player. Hell, I think the Eberle contract, they got 5.5 million. I think Eberle's worth more than him. Eberle didn't have a good year, but man, 150-point season from Hayes does not make him a 7 or 6. I don't even think I pay him 6. If I'm a GM of the Flyers, I pay him. I probably offer from 5 to 5.5. If you reject that, you're out. I'm not signing you to that much. That's why the Jets traded him. It's the same situation when I think honestly Carolina traded Skinner because he wanted so much money. Like, he's not $9 million. Skinner's only had one 40-goal season, and he's not 30 yet. He's like 28. Skinner's not that old yet, but he's getting there. You're paying him just because of one 40-goal season. Now, he's a pretty good like he's consistent 25 to 30 goals, but again, a player like that, getting 9 after just one 40-goal season, and still the points weren't really there. It was mostly the goals. I don't know how you pay him that much. I really don't. Going back to Kevin Hayes, you pay him $7.1 million, and that's 1 year, pretty much. So that's so I'll say about that one. And finally, I'm gonna talk to you guys about the Jacob Trouba trade that happened, I believe, last night, where I think it was a few days ago, and Jacob Trouba was dealt to the New York Rangers for a first round pick, which they traded for the Kevin Hayes deal, and now they've got it back. So technically, that Kevin Hayes trade even looks better because of that move that they've made in Trouba, which he was definitely gonna be gone with the cap hell and everything. They weren't gonna be able to sign him in arbitration thing. I'm not like expert in that, but I know he was gonna want, like, he wanted tons of money, and New York was the place he wanted to go apparently. And Neil Pionk, I guess, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I never even heard of this guy. Apparently he's a pretty good defenseman for the Rangers or AHL or whatever. So as a guy, like, I want the Jets to do well, and I think this is a decent move. Gotta give up Trouba, and they did. And what this means, in my opinion, is they probably are going to be keeping Myers. Now, if they're not keeping Myers, then their defense is not gonna look very good. It's still a decent defense. And with Pionk there, let's just hope he's pretty decent third pairing defenseman that can play well, because the Jets losing Trouba, it is huge for the Winnipeg Jets. They lose one of definitely one of the another underrated defenseman for some reason. I have no clue. He's such a good defenseman, but he just gets overlooked, I guess. But big dust in Buffalo they still have. But Jacob Trouba, and let's look at Sean Avery now. That category for Jacob Trouba, or whatever how he said it. Like, I'm sure everybody's seen that video. The Jacob Trouba thing he said was pretty dumb, and I didn't buy it for a second. Now, if that happened, I am a Leaf fan, so if that happened, I kind of would be, jumping around. Now, I like Kadri and everything, but Jacob Trouba would be literally like miles better than that Muzzin trade. And that Muzzin trade, after this trade, New York didn't really give up a prospect that's big. I don't even think this guy's a prospect that they gave up, and Pionk. I don't think so. I don't think he's really a prospect. The Leafs gave up Grunstrom and Jersey, I think that was his name, right? They gave up two quality prospects, because their prospect pool is deep, so they still have a really good prospect pool. But now looking back on it, LA got a really good deal, and the Jets, they get a first, but all they get is another, maybe a decent defenseman. LA got tons. So yeah, going back to, if that was right though, it would make sense in my opinion, but apparently Kadri, on his trade list, he had Winnipeg as a team he doesn't want to go to. So apparently he did not want to go to the Jets. Because I'm sure Dubas called Shebel day off though and said, I want Jacob Trouba. We want to upgrade our blue line. You need a second line center, which again, this makes sense because when Winnipeg's always looking for that second line center every trade deadline. Just get like a center for once, and if they got because Kadri, remember, was behind Matthews. Kadri was the second line center, and he's a pretty solid one. But he's a third line center that now has a different role. He doesn't even play that much offense. He's always been a good defensive forward since Babcock came in, which is one of the only things. But yeah, going back to this trade, New York's amazing rebuild. Like, New York's amazing rebuild gave me so much hope for this team to at least make a playoff push, because they're nothing close to a contender, but they could make a push. And adding Trouba, in my opinion, might make the Jets a potential playoff team because I think that this is such a good move for the New York Rangers. They acquired a really weird trade in Adam Fox. Adam Fox was the best Carolina prospect. One of them, like, obviously not the best, but one of the best, arguably the second best defensive prospect behind Jake Bean. Maybe even better of a defensive prospect, because Jake Bean looks pretty sick too. Adam Fox said he didn't want to play in Carolina, so he wasn't going to sign after college. So he signs in New York. Well, he gets traded and signs in New York. Carolina got like a second, but at least they got something. And again, I want Carolina to do well. So it was pretty sad. But for the New York Rangers, it was a ridiculous and incredible steal that they got. Now, if Adam Fox doesn't perform well next year, he only gets like 25, 30 points. Still decent for a rookie. But Carolina wouldn't actually have an awful trade. If he doesn't dominate and if he struggles defensively and New York misses the playoffs, it again doesn't look like it's awful for the Carolina Hurricanes, but he looks like he is going to be a very good defenseman for a long time if he becomes the defenseman he's supposed to. And again, when you add Trouba to that mix, and you probably are going to draft Kaapo Kakko second overall in this year's draft in a few days, and Kravtsov from the World Juniors, he was so good. And again, that's where I found out about him, and he's a Rangers prospect. Him in the lineup, Kaapo Kakko and Trouba, and all these pieces. I'm not saying they're definitely a playoff team, but there's no way that they're going to be a bad team next year. They are going to be all year. And David Quinn made the Rangers better than they should have been last year. Last year, they were awful, but they should have been worse. They were competitive. And they honestly, my main concern is the goaltending in New York. But this is not a New York Rangers video. I just want to discuss the main pieces they added. Looking at the teams after the moves, and they've added a lot of good moves and a lot of good pieces, and I like a lot of these pieces. I really like New York's. side of this deal and how their team looks next year, I like the New York Rangers. I think it's a very, 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 very interesting team. And apparently, as usual, Panarin's still rumored, and I still think they have a shot. If they actually, I mean, if they got Panarin, like just look, yeah, like if they got Panarin, just look out. But just look out. I mean, that's all you have to do. It's crazy. So yeah, and those are the news updates of the last few days. This basically a week, and but yeah, this is setting up maybe one of the craziest offs. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be the craziest off season of my lifetime. It's gonna be crazy. So thanks for watching. If you did, please subscribe and subscribe here for daily content. And talk to you all later.